Well, folks, it looks as though Ghislaine Maxwell limited immunity before speaking to the Department of Justice. In other words, the Trump Department of Justice has struck a deal with a child sex trafficker before they sat down to talk with her. Now, this limited immunity that she got is usually gave to someone before they're convicted, but she got it after the fact. We went from them being the party that was constantly criticizing drag queens and claiming that they was grooming the children to making deals with people who preyed upon and groomed children. It's truly one of the most disgusting things that we've ever seen. And it just feels like we're watching a mob movie. I said that the other day to a good friend of mine, Mr. Global. If you've not checked him out, he's here on YouTube. Check out his content. We were texting back and forth, and I said, man, it just feels like we're watching a mob movie. And he said, that's because we are. And I've thought about that a whole lot. It doesn't feel like that we're reacting anymore to breaking news. It feels like I'm going back and watching Sons of Anarchy all over again. And this is the episode where Jax goes in to talk to Juice before Marilyn Manson comes in and cleans house. That's where it feels like we're at. And it's just so sickening to me to see a woman like this and to think about all the victims that she preyed upon and helped Epstein. To think what an ultimate betrayal this is to all of them, that they would be reasoning with her or offering her any kind of deal, and now she's seeking a pardon, which we all saw that coming. We said it when he said, hey, it's all a big hoax. We said, well, hell, she's going to have a case now, and here we are. Here we are, and if you think that's crazy, I wished I was making this next headline up, but no, folks, this is real in 2025. So I'm going to be reading this one here from MidasNews.com, and truly, I started to say, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but in Trump's world, yes, this is reality, and I can believe that a free Ghislaine advocate claims that people connected to the White House contacted her before they reached out to Maxwell. Oh, man. So this one's written by J.D. Wolf. As the fallout from the Epstein file scandals deepens, new revelations are raising fresh questions about the Trump administration's judgment. We have been questioning their judgment for years. It's so insane. Pro-Trump influencer and Substack writer Jessica Reed Krause, a self-described free Ghislaine advocate, claimed this week on Instagram that sources intimately connected to the White House reached out to her for strategic advice about interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted child sex trafficker and longtime associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Check this out. Look at this shirt. They're going to sit here, folks, and find a way to make Ghislaine Maxwell the victim and hero in the story. I'm not trying to bring down the room, but that looks like that's where we're headed. So, according to Krause, who previously been granted press access at the White House, of course she has, the Trump team sought her opinion on whether engaging with Maxwell could help politically. We're talking about a convicted child sex trafficker, and they're wondering if talking to them could help them politically. Because if it helps them politically, then yeah, by all means, let's go strike a deal with this person. The outreach reportedly followed widespread outrage over the administration's announcement that it would not be releasing the full Epstein files, disclosing any client names, or making any additional arrests. So many in Trump's base saw that move as a betrayal of his campaign promises and were further incensed when Trump publicly began lashing out at his own supporters, calling them bad people and former allies. On her Instagram story, Krause wrote, "The president, deep in crisis after catastrophically fumbling the Epstein files, prompted several separate calls from sources intimately connected to the White House. They reached out for advice on Maxwell. Thanks to the viral bashing weeks earlier, I was their radar as an expert on Epstein's defamed co-conspirator." Krause said she was asked whether they should interview Maxwell, whether it would help or hurt the scandal, and what her personal opinion of Maxwell was. She described turning over her polling data and encouraged the administration to move forward, calling Maxwell the only viable reset button that they had left. Why would a Trump White House team turn to a convicted trafficker for political redemption? Well, according to Krause, they consulted a free Ghislaine influencer who told them to. Back in March, Krause defended herself against attacks from right-wing commentator Laura Loomer by restating her position to free Ghislaine and convict her clients. So right here she put, my readers are very familiar with my stance on Ghislaine. Free Ghislaine, convict her clients. That's my stance. I find it absurd that one woman is serving Epstein's 20-year prison sentence while all the men involved are free and unbothered. I've spent 3 years explaining this. Don't you have single mothers to harass, Laura? So she also faced criticism for referring to child sex trafficking as teenage prostitution. In a prior Instagram post, a phrase widely condemned by advocates who note that children cannot legally consent to sexual exploitation. So then right here, look at what this person wrote. Also, this isn't a child sex trafficking ring as much as the media clings to the salacious headline. It's deeply layered tale involving arms, dealing, spies, Mossad, CIA, Bill Barr, teenage prostitution, and so much more, all accumulating in the ancient power of blackmail. For those of us who understand it on a deeper level, it is an uncomfortable saga to unravel because the good guys who seem to be the good guys are often not, and the victims framed as victims are often not. And this is the type of person that they reached out to, according to her. So Krause was one of the top pro-Trump influencers invited to the White House event earlier this year to receive one of the Epstein Files Phase 1 binders distributed by former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. The binder, largely filled with already public material, was dismissed across the political spectrum as a publicity stunt, made more controversial by the fact that Krause has been previously photographed wearing a Free Ghislaine t-shirt at a political event. Where do we go from here other than, yeah, this is just another Sons of Anarchy episode, and it just ended in one of the most gruesome episodes we've ever seen, and tune in next week, they're going to raise the bar. That's how this feels. That's how this feels, because when I sit down to do a video, I will record one and I will say, okay, that should set just for a minute, and then I put it out there into the world, and before it really hits your ears, something like this has happened. And it's so insane to me how that we're over here, as always, sounding the alarm, as always, pointing to the giant red flags, as always, pointing out how that this is all coming unglued and off the rails. And then over in the MAGA world, it's like they're all just kind of going silent. And the reason they're going silent is because they're waiting to see how the narrative is going to be retold and reshaped. And I'm not trying to bring down the room, but it's looking as though they're going to paint Ghislaine as the hero. Free Ghislaine. She'll be a victim too. And she will be the one that will somehow save Donald Trump. And that's where we're at. And all the victims that was whose lives was wrecked and destroyed by Epstein, and everyone that ever covered it up, they just get a big old slap in the face. And I think back to all the years that MAGA preached about protecting children. And we could go back before MAGA and talk all about the Republican Party and how they always claim to be the party of pro-life. I've always called bullshit on that, and I always will. They don't care about somebody. They just like to weaponize the birth and then make the death about them. The life in between, they don't care about. All they want to talk about is the unborn, but once you get here, they're never there for you. They're never there to do anything to make your life any easier. And then when you die, they'll have a funeral for you and sit there and try to sell their God to you and make it all about them. These people who have argued with us the hardest and have hurled insults at us. We've been sitting over here saying, release the files. We don't care if Democrats are on it. We've been sitting there saying we want full transparency. We want everyone involved in this brought down. Don't give a damn how big of a favorite president they might have been. We don't give a damn. We've been saying that. And meanwhile, we've had people telling us, don't take your kids to the drag shows. Yeah, don't take your kids to the drag show. Oh no, a trans is going to play volleyball. We can't have that. We got to protect the kids. They brought a girl to the damn speech that got hit in the head with a volleyball and acted like she was the biggest victim on earth. And that they're going to sit here and cut a deal with someone who was a predator and convicted for it. And I've had people say, well, now, Brando, that's not going to look good on him. Do you think he gives a damn? Do you honestly think he cares? No. He'll just reshape the narrative. And a friend of mine who I love, and we laughed about this after it was over, sent me a clip of Joe Rogan and said, hey, look, Rogan's starting to see through it. I watched for 20 minutes. He ain't seeing through shit, folks. Don't fall for that. He sat there for 20 minutes talking about it. He questioned Kash Patel. He questioned Pam Bondi. He questioned Dan Bongino. He said it's all crazy. But he never once entertained the idea that Trump could be guilty himself. But back when Joe Biden was in office, buddy, he was constantly talking about Joe Biden and the Biden crime family. And if Hunter Biden farted in a bathtub, he was all over it. He was right there to talk about, wow, what do you think caused that? We're going to sit back and watch one of the most disgusting things play out. And I don't know. It's as though we're on that Sons of Anarchy episode and there's no hero. There's no Batman coming that I can see. And we can stand up and talk and protest all day long, but the son of a bitch has immunity, so now what? He got immunity, and now he's granting limited immunity to predators. But I think what we really do, folks, no matter what happens next, and some people says, well, relax, Brando, there's a lot of stuff coming out, and maybe it'll get better. I don't know. I hope you're right. Maybe it could get better. But what we'll always have to do, folks, if nothing else, we'll have to continue to speak up for these victims, and we'll have to continue to speak up and hold MAGA's feet to the fire and remind them who they support now. Don't ever let them insult a drag queen. Don't ever let them insult trans people. Don't ever let them insult gay people ever again. Don't ever let them guilt trip you for anything you ever did in your life. If you went through a phase, you went through a rough divorce, and you went and partied at the bar a little too hard a couple of times, don't ever let them make you feel guilty for that shit again, because first of all, the Supreme Court gave immunity to a man who was found liable of sexual abuse. And now that guy is giving limited immunity to a predator. Don't ever let them off the hook, and always remind them what they're the party of.